Hello everyone, and welcome to the first MCC analysis video. So let's get started. So right off the bat, I think these are amazing teams. I love these teams very, very much. I was very hyped when they came out. This video is really just trying to predict where they're going to place. So I think in last place, I hate to do this, but I'm pretty sure 10th place is probably going to be the Simmers. I hope this team doesn't come last, because I love this team. It's been so long since we've seen the Simmers. I know Zeus has been on the craziest of training arcs, and I believe Vixella is starting a training arc too, and Zeus will be teaching her. But I still don't know if that's going to be enough to get this team out of 10th place. I think there are a lot of very strong teams in this event, and I feel like a lot of the games that this team might be good at are also going to get benched. I feel like BattleBox is going to get benched this event. I think this team could be an alright meltdown team because, I mean, Zeus is pretty good at it, but I think Meltdown's probably getting benched too. I think this team could be a decent hole-in-the-wall team. I know James Turner was pretty good at it back in Season 1. But at the same time, I think hole-in-the-wall also gets benched this event. So, I think time will tell, but right now I have the Simmers in 10th. I hate to do this, because this is the team that I'm going to be watching the day of the event. I'm probably going to watch Phil. But right now, I have in 9th place the Pink Presence, I should say. I love this team. But I think compared to the other teams, it's kind of lacking in a lot of areas. I think the duo of Tapple and Filza is pretty strong. But I think similarly to the Simmers, a lot of this team's good games are probably going to be benched. Hole in the Wall, Tapple, and Filza are kind of crazy in that one. I think Hole in the Wall probably gets benched. This team could be a decent Meltdown team, but again, I think Meltdown is probably benched. I know Snifferish is pretty good at Meltdown. Ludwig showed last event that he can be very, very potent in Meltdown. I mean, he did that insane 1v4. Tapple's pretty good in Meltdown, and Filza, I think Filza's definitely been improving. So I think this team could be a decent Meltdown team, but again, I don't think Meltdown is in the event. I think the one or two games that I think this team could be pretty dominant in if they're in the event are Rocket Spleef Rush and maybe Parkour Tag. I mean, Filza is an absolute goat in Rocket Spleef Rush. Tapple has shown before that he can pop off. So I think this team will be getting a fair amount of points in Rocket Spleef Rush. Then with Parkour Tag, Ludwig had that insane performance in MCC 13, so if he's able to replicate that, then this team is a very, very strong Parkour Tag team. Tapple is a little bit inconsistent in Parkour Tag. I think he's a far better runner than he is a hunter, but he's a very good runner, so... And Filza's kind of like middle of the road. I'm not sure on how well Snifferish does in Parkour Tag, but I think if she's able to call out where the hunters are, and she knows where the hunters are when she's being chased, then I think she could do pretty well. But yeah, right now I have Pink in 9th. In 8th, I have the Mint Mistles. I think people are still sleeping on Sylvie. Sylvie is definitely one of the most improved players from, if not the most improved player between Season 1 and Season 2. Sylvie has the potential to even top frag on this team. I think a lot of this team depends on how well Hannah does. If Hannah performs her average, then probably bottom 3, I would say this team is. But if Hannah has a performance similar to MCC 27, or she could crack like top 10, I think this team moves up a lot higher. Shovel has had a couple of rough events. I think MCC 26 was still pretty good. Amesy has consistently been improving, so hopefully that'll continue, and we could see this team maybe in the top half. I do think this is one of the weaker teams, though, but I think games like survival games could be very good for them. Battle Box is definitely a good game for this team. And honestly, I don't think this team has very many weak points. I just think that they get outclassed by a lot of the other teams. In 7th, I have the Red Reindeer. Don't get me wrong, this is a pretty strong team. It's definitely balanced within the context of these other teams. Like, I feel like this is a middle of the pack team. I just think that the other middle of the pack teams might outclass them here. JoJo has been on an absolute pop-off arc. Gemini Tay is generally very consistent. Good Times with Scar has been improving a lot. And Rambu, generally inconsistent, but I think with the past like 2 events that he's had, he's kind of returning back to that more pop-off arc era of him. If we have a performance from Rambu that is similar to the last Christmas event, I think this team could probably make Dodgebolt. If not, then it's probably going to remain as a middle-of-the-pack team. But Rambu is definitely the player to watch out for here. As for games that I think this team is good at, right away, Hole in the Wall. Between JoJo and Rambu, like, this is an insane Hole in the Wall team. Battle Box could be a good one. I know JoJo is very good in it. Rambu tends to do pretty well. Gemini Tay is insane with a bow, so if she gets a bow kit and can just bow spam the opposing team, that's pretty good. And Scar is always good to have that one person with you who could do that 1 or 2 hits to take down whoever you're fighting against. I'm trying to think of what other games would be good for this team. I don't think there's any games that are particularly bad for this team. I think everybody on this team covers each other's weak points very well. This could be a very good Build Mart team. This could be a very good Meltdown team. Like, all the games that I think are bad for certain players on this team, there's somebody else on this team who covers that weak point very well. So I'm debating on whether I move this team up in my rankings, but right now I have them 7th. In 6th, I have the Purple Penguins. Not a particularly strong team, not a particularly weak team. I think Antfrost is the clear carry here. As for second frag, I genuinely don't know. I feel like Bad and Ponk are pretty similar. Velvet could absolutely pop off and has shown that they could do so multiple times. Or at least in Pride 22. I don't remember how well Velvet did in MCC 27, but I know it was a generally stronger performance, I think. I think it was above their average. As for games that I think this team is good at, Parkour Tag, probably, with Ponk. Ponk's a great hunter. Bad, I know Bad could do pretty well. Antfrost can do pretty well. I think Sands of Time is another pretty good game for this team between Bad and Antfrost. To get the other side with Velvet, Antfrost, I think all 4 of these players are pretty good at to get to the other side. If there was a game that I would say is probably this team's weak point, it's probably Build Mart, which I'm assuming is in this event. Sky Battle is a pretty good game for this team, come to think of it. But yeah, so right now I have this team, what did I say? I think I have this team 6th. So that sounds about right. I think they could definitely get top 5. I think they could possibly place lower than 6th. But again, it's a matter of time. I'll probably release like a post on YouTube with updated predictions once we get the games. But right now, purple 6th. So in 5th place, I have the Yellow Yetis. I don't know. I feel like people are sleeping on this team. I feel like people generally sleep on H-Bomb's teams. I mean, we have a new player this event, H-Bomb 96. I don't know what happened there, but you know, H-Bomb 96, I'm assuming, is a PvP god with a name like 96. Sam is generally well-rounded. Cub is pretty well-rounded. False is insane with a bow, and I think covers a lot of this team's weak points. Right off the bat, I would say this team is probably the best Sands of Time team in this event, and probably the best Sands of Time team that we've had in recent events. H-Bomb, insanely cracked in Sands of Time. Cub Fan, insanely cracked at Sands of Time. False does very, very well in Sands of Time. And Sam as well can do very well. So if this team gets a late Sands of Time, they probably make Dodgebolt. PvP is probably this team's weak point. But even then, like, H-Bomb's not bad at PvP. Sam can do very well. Cub, it depends on the situation, and as I said earlier, False is insane with a bow. But I think movement and team games are probably this team's strength. Maybe not Ace Race, but again, I'm pretty sure Ace Race is getting benched this event. It's been a while since we've had an Ace Race bench. So, yeah. In 5th place, the Yellow Yetis. 4th place, the Cerulean Candy Canes. This is a strong team. Pete, cracked. Martin, cracked. Pearlescent Moon, cracked. Captain Puffy, cracked. There is really no weak player on this team. I think the closest thing to a weak player that we have is Captain Puffy, who is usually like a 3rd to even 2nd frag. Similar to the previous team that I spoke about, I think this team's weak point is definitely PvP, but Pizza Hut is very good at PvP. It's just sometimes he can't always show it, or sometimes he just gets unlucky. If Ace Race is in, this is an insane Ace Race team between Pete and Martin. This team could be a very good hole-in-the-wall team between Pete and Pearl. Puffy helps round them out in a bit of the PvP side of things. I know Puffy's not bad at PvP. Meltdown is a pretty good game for this team. Also, Build Mart is probably one of this team's best games. Between Pearl, Pete, Martin, even Puffy is pretty good at it. So yeah. Cerulean in 4th. In 3rd place, I have the Emerald Elves. So this team is finally giving us Illumina and Tommy in it. Or Illuminate, as I coined. I was definitely the first person to say that. Everybody stole that from me. I think this team is going to be pretty dominant, and they're going to just miss out on Dodgebolt, which might be a good thing, because if this team makes it to Dodgebolt, they're probably not winning. Jack is very, very cursed, as well as his profile picture is also very cursed. Jack has never won a round of Dodgebolt. Illumina has been cursed to lose every single Dodgebolt they've been in since, like, MCC Pride 21. G has lost the only Dodgebolt that they were ever in, and Tommy recently has lost most of the Dodgebolts that he's made it to, MCC 23 and 24, so we'll see. I really don't think this team has a weak game, but I also don't really think that this team has a particularly amazing game. Like, I think this team is probably, like, close to top 3 in most games, but I don't think this team gets first in any particular game. Sky Battle is pretty good for them. Never thought I'd say that about a team with Illumina on it, but I think between Tommy and Jack, they could do pretty well in Sky Battle. This could be a very strong survival games team, and this could be a decent Battle Box team. to get to their side as well. I think maybe the one game that could throw them through a loop, or actually a couple of games, is generally team games. I don't think this is a very strong Build Mart team. I don't think this is a. Actually, this could be a pretty strong Sands of Time team between Tommy and Jay, but. And then Grid Runners, I feel like Grid Runners might be one of their weaker games. But yeah, Emerald in third. In second place, I have the Teal Turkeys. There's no denying that this is probably the strongest team in the event. I mean, when your weakest player is arguably Solidarity, your team's doing all right. Because Solidarity is a pretty good player. Especially when he doesn't come 40th. Puns is insanely cracked. He is probably one of the strongest players in this event. Sneak Snack has been on quite the arc recently. He seems to be getting better in basically every event he plays in now. And Captain Sparkles, he's had a rough few MCCs recently, but you also have to understand that his teams in the most recent MCCs have been on the weaker side. So hopefully this will be the performance he needs as a redemption. And I mean, it's the Teal Turkeys, so this team probably wins the event. Unless Puns decides to go 0 for 8 in Dodgebolt again, because that would be pretty funny. It's been a while since Solidarity's gotten a win. I think his last win was MCC 14. And if this team wins, then Sneak has won both. The only time that Sneak will have won an event is during a Christmas event. So that could be something. I don't think there are any games that are really bad for this team. You could argue Build Mart, but then again, Captain Sparkles is pretty good at Build Mart. Solidarity is pretty good at Build Mart, so I don't think it's the biggest weakness for them. Maybe Grid Runners. Sands of Time, I think, is a pretty good game for them. Battle Box is an insane game for them. Survival games, even Sky Battle. Anything that's PvP related, or Ace Race, is a very good game for this team. Maybe Hole in the Wall they struggle in a little bit, but if the games that they struggle in are still middle of the pack games that they're in, I think this team is going to be fine. So, Teal Turkeys in second. Which by now you probably guessed who my first place team is. And that is the Ginger Breadman. Purpled is probably the strongest player in this event right now. You could argue Illumina, but I think Purpled has shown that he could do insanely well on low-placing teams. So the second he's on a very strong team like this one, he's just going to do insane. Scott's a bit inconsistent, but if he plays to his average, he's easily getting top 20, top 15 then. Impulse is coming off the back of a pretty strong performance in MCC 27, and he's got a bit of an advantage that most newcomers usually don't have, and that is, while this is his first canon event, he played in a non-canon or a half-canon event not even 3 weeks ago. So he's going in technically as a newcomer, but he has some very recent experience in the event. And Becky, I remember she had, or I don't know what Becky's pronouns are, but Becky had a pretty good performance in MCC Rising. I feel like a lot of people are going to be sleeping on Becky. So because of that, I think that this team, for now, I have in first. Again, my predictions are definitely going to change once we figure out what the games are. But I think this team is very dominant in PvP because of Purpled. I think this team could be a very good movement team, largely because of Purpled, but also because of Scott. Becky, I think, was pretty good in movement, and Impulse, I think, was pretty good. Impulse, I feel like, was a very well-rounded player, similar to Becky. It's been a while since I've seen their stats, so I could be saying complete lies right now. As for games that this team is weak in, I really can't think of one. I think Scott and Purple alone cover each other's weaknesses very well. Scott is much more team games oriented. Purple is more movement and PvP oriented. And I think Impulse and Becky just fill in those gaps nicely. So right now I have Ginger in first. But let me know what you all think. And I guess when this video comes on YouTube, write your predictions in the comments, and I'll look through them. But yeah, I'll see you all next time. Bye.